You're watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Toronto Sports Rush channel on the Bet Rivers Network. I'm Jesse Jaurji, and today we are joined by Raptors color analyst Paul Jones to talk all things Raptors. Paul, thank you for being here.
Pleasure to be with you guys, Jesse.
Now, my first question for you is something that I've been very excited to ask. It feels like every season, there's usually one team that, despite not having the best record, plays a really fun and entertaining brand of basketball. So my question for you is it safe to say that the Raptors this season are the year's fun, bad record team?
They might be, Jesse. They might be. And like the second part of your statement kind of as a competitor grates on me because there's, you don't play to lose. And I know it's a popular sentiment going around, particularly Toronto, once the word rebuild was thrown out that, rebuild is code for we're not going to be very good this year. And that might be the case, but it's not going to be done purposely, not from the players or the coaching staff. And there's like I said, conventional wisdom says organizations go in the tank. Players and coaches don't. I can't believe that Grady or Jamal Shed or some of these, Scotty Barnes, I can't see that when they're on the floor, they care about next year's draft pick. Those losses are going on Darko's record. He certainly doesn't want those. But I understand organizations do that. Like Philadelphia did it for a long time. Teams do it, and they get good picks. But, when you get a good pick, you also have to draft the right guy, develop him, win enough so that he wants to stay. So I'm not, the competitor in me is not always in favor of the losing part of it. It's kind of a consolation prize. But to get back to your original question, yeah, I think so. They are that team. I mean, the Raptors, right now at what are they, 7-15? They've had 11 games, 10 games were decided by 2 possessions or less. So yeah, they are that fun, exciting. And as I was taught in the NBA when I broke in, 30 years ago, there was a phrase that the guys used to use saying, "Oh man, just good enough to lose." And in those close games with the inexperience and the development and the youth of some of the Raptors that are on the court in those close games, that's what you have. Just good enough to lose. They're right there, but not able to win. But I anticipate that changing as they become more experienced, Jesse.
And although the record isn't the best, the Raptors have won 3 of their last 4, and a lot of fans are really impressed with how they performed so far this year, not to mention all the injuries they've had. So I'm curious to know, do you think the Raptors are further along in this rebuild than you might have thought at the beginning of this season? Or do you still think it's very early days before we start talking about making the playoffs and competing for championships again?
It's still early in terms of, making playoffs, deep runs, and looking at another banner beside the one that's already up there. It's still really early. And I always say that, a rebuild is it's like tearing the house down and having a reno. And right now they're still putting up studs. They're still framing. There's no talk of, you might be out looking at nice furniture for when it's ready to be done, but I mean, you haven't even put up drywall yet. You're still in the early stages. And the timetable, that's a difficult question, Jesse, because it's not linear. It's not, okay, this, then that, then that. It doesn't always go like that. I mean, you can look at, you look back at the 2013 deal that Masai made, and people thought they were trying to go to get ping pong balls, and were trying to maybe, as you say, lose with a purpose, be that fun, entertaining, competitive team that loses. And they made a trade, and all of a sudden things took off when they got Gravis Vasquez, John Salmons, that trade, and it puts them into the playoffs, and all of a sudden the timetable changes. So I don't know if I'd say they were ahead. I guess I would say I like where they are now because of the way some of the young guys are playing and the opportunities that they've garnered.
For sure. And Paul, you talk about the ping pong balls. Fans love talking about drafts, and a lot of Raptors fans have been trying to call this season Capture the Flag. But is there a specific prospect in the draft that you think fits specifically this Raptors team better than others?
I don't know if there is one. For me, you draft the best player and see where best player available and see where you can use them. I'm not always a fan of drafting for need. I understand it happens, and sometimes you do it. If you were a good team that happened to have the lottery pick of, a poor team because of a trade in previous years, maybe you draft for need. But I don't really see anybody. I mean, in the way the league is going now, you've got to have the whole tool belt. You've got to be able to handle the ball in the perimeter. You've got to be able to shoot the three. You've got to be able to defend your position out on the perimeter. You have to be a playmaker, driving the ball to the goal, pitching it out. It's a bonus if you could have any kind of a post up or inside game. So, whatever prospect you get, you're going to try to develop him and have all those tools on his tool belt anyway.
And Paul, my last question for you, some recent news. There was a leak earlier on this week, but now the Toronto Tempo has officially been unveiled as the name for Toronto's new WNBA franchise. Now, back in September, the team president said, quote, "We needed identity, a logo, a name that people can rally around." Do you think they accomplished that with Toronto Tempo, or do we have to wait a little bit and see?
Well, everybody has their thoughts on a name right away. I mean, even when the Raptors were named, people were, they just went for the whole, Jurassic Park time, and they were trying to, attract the young kids. And yeah, that might have been part of the strategy, but it is what it is now. It's been 30 years, and that name is emblazoned. It's ingrained in the NBA. And so, I like the name. I'm not, I think, I look at a lot of the WNBA teams that have these monikers that are singular entities. Maybe it says something that we are one, the Minnesota Lynx. There's no S on the end there, although a lynx is an animal that roams. But, the sun in Connecticut, the Mercury in Phoenix, the Fever in Indiana. I'm okay with it. And I'm just, it doesn't matter what it says on the front of the chest. If you're winning, people will get behind you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I don't care about the Jurassic Park stuff. The Toronto Raptors, it's one of the best logos of all time. One of the best names too. But that is all the time we have for today. Guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. Paul, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
All right, Jesse, pleasure, man.
Thanks for watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.